Welcome to Restore Black podcast. Today we are going stateside. We have a truly inspiring guest joining me today, Juan Irby. Juan is a distinguished birth and postpartum doula, as well as an esteemed new parent educator. He is renowned for his unwavering commitment to supporting families and navigating the beautiful journey of fatherhood. As a visionary founder of Dad to Doula, Juan is passionate about providing essential support to parents during the transformative phases of pregnancy, birth, and early parenthood. Juan's journey into the world of doulas was unexpected, yet deeply impactful. With a natural passion for people and a lifelong desire to have children, he never envisioned these paths converging. However, everything changed after the birth of his first child. Juan's advocacy extends beyond support. He aims to shed light on the fact that men can experience postpartum depression, affecting 1 in 10 fathers. He recognized that his own feelings were valid and realized the importance of amplifying the voices of fathers who may be struggling in silence. This inspired him to become a birth doula, then a postpartum doula, and ultimately a new parent educator. And so, Juan, I want to welcome you to Restore Black podcast. Thank you for joining me from the States. I know it's early morning there, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and here it's 3 in the afternoon. But we have the beauty of Zoom to be able to do this. So thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's truly amazing to get a chance to share my story, to share why I love doing this, to share my journey through it all. So I can't wait to dive deeper.
Right, and it's an interesting story because it piqued my interest. I want to just big up my good friend, Dr. Fishel in the States, who, when we catch up with each other, we kind of say what we're both doing. And she mentioned there was a African male doula, and I was like blown away from that. So yeah. Thank you. And your stories is indeed interesting. So let's get into this interesting story. So I know your depression started after the birth of your first child. So what I'd like to think about, like I do with all my clients when I begin, is just to give me tell me a bit about your early years experience, being at home, your parents and siblings, etc. If you can start with that.
Yeah, certainly. So growing up, we moved around a bit, and I was the only child at the time. And later on, but I think it was about 6 or 7, my mom said that she was pregnant. And so I was like, okay, I'm about to have someone else in the house that I can talk to and share things with. And the baby was born, and the baby died maybe a week and a half later.
Okay.
And I want to say 8 years old at the time. Not really processing what death was at the time, like from a sibling. You go to funerals, but you never process what happened or what happened at funerals. I guess being at that young age in life. And so I grew up. I went to middle school, high school. Later on, we went to college here in Alabama, and then ended up getting married and having 2 children of my own. And I've been married to my wife for 11 great years. I have 2 wonderful children, my son who's 5 and my daughter who will be turning 3 in about 2 weeks. And so I love what I do. My passion as a birth and postpartum doula and new parent educator kind of came from, I guess, that childhood of birth trauma there, which kind of led me into the path now, because I've always had a niche for people. I've always loved working with people. And when I started school, I was a social worker, but ended up, excuse me, but ended up going the business route of things.
Right.
But it kind of came back full circle when I became a birth doula and a postpartum doula and a new parent educator, now working with people all over again.
Okay. Can I you back up? Can I go back a bit to your childhood?
Hmm.
And you said something about where you said that, you lost a brother. Was it a brother?
Yes.
Yes. Would you mind talking about that, how the loss of your brother, you said you didn't know how it had impacted you, but I'm wondering about later on in,
Mm.
in life, how that came up again for you.
Yeah. So, you know, at a young age, you really don't know or how to process loss
Mm,
or grieve in that moment,
mm,
because you see someone and then next thing you know, you don't see them again. And when you do see them, they're sleeping in the casket.
right.
Um, and so one thing that my mom told me that I said was, how come God couldn't take me instead of him?
Right.
And so thinking about that later on in life, I would say in my 30s, um, it kind of hit me like, well, okay, I've never processed the death of my brother.
Yeah.
And so by going and taking some time to actually walk through that process,
Mm,
to talk to my mom about the process, to make sure that I am okay having kids and things like that, to be like, okay, I want to have kids,
mm,
but I also don't want to lose any of my kids at the same time or lose my spouse. And so just taking some time to process that, to walk through all of my feelings, walk through all of my emotions,
mm,
to write things out, to journal, to speak it out loud, to ask God why, But God does things that can help us out, And I'm not ki- I'm not sure what kind of life my brother would have lived,
mm,
um, but at the same time, you know, God knew what He was doing,
mm.
and God saw fit to take him home, and I'm okay with that.
Yes. You said you started to process it at
Hmm.
age 30.
Hmm.
Can you say what the trigger was for you? And do you feel that this sense of loss or sense of grief that you had been carrying, you had repressed it those years prior?
Yeah, so I I think what triggered it was his actual birthday.
Oh,
So I got out his obituary. I read through it, um, and I have the original obituary, like where they made like the changes on it and things like that.
mhm,
And so just by reading that and like just saying, okay, was um he was only a few weeks old,
mhm,
and really saying, okay, like why would God take this tiny person away from, our family? Why would, God do this? Why would God do that? But as time went on, I kind of just asked God, like, okay, God, like, why? Like, why did you take this person away that I could have grown to love, grown to be with in life, someone to talk to, someone to share my emotions with and feelings with? Um, and, at the time, maybe I wasn't ready to have that person in my life.
mhm,
And to just keep all of those emotions in and not and not say how I was feeling. Kind of just started to just come up, and being able to talk about these things to my mom, to talk about it to my wife, and just having those support people in my corner to say, hey, it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
It's okay as a Black male to feel this way.
Mm.
It's okay for you to be hurt. It's okay if you to be angry. And just having those feelings that were so deep down brought up
Mhm.
did make me feel better, because now I was able to release them
Mm.
and be okay with him dying at such an early age.
And you talk about these feelings being deep down, being
Mhm.
able to finally come up. Can you do you recognize, or can you say about how suppressing those feelings, how else did they come out for you? Because you mentioned anger. And I
Mhm.
want to ask again, how were you as a child? How did you express your feelings? Did you feel that you were angry and didn't know why you were angry at times? And can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah, as a child, I do remember having angry outbursts.
Okay.
And nothing physical or anything like that. Just the angry outbursts
Mhm.
of like, why did this person make me so upset? And just being around and saying, hey, um I I need to see how I can work through this. And so just by um just by seeing how I can work through these paths and work through all of this emotion, um, I was giving an outlet, and my outlet was music.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
and so music has always been my outlet to any and everything, because music is the way that I can express myself, whether it's through like classical music or it's through just contemporary music. Um, and music kind of like that kind of like sets my mood or tells you how I'm feeling at the time. And so I've been in music since the third grade, and I loved every moment of music. I started playing a cello at an early age, and then played the violin, the viola,
Mhm.
and then I started playing in marching band. So I love that, and music, and that was my outlet to, I guess, my anger.
Right.
But yeah, that was my outlet to my anger.
Yeah, so it soothed you. It soothed you. And it reminds me, because I know you're faith-based,
Yes, ma'am.
it reminds me of how David and the relationship between David and Saul, and how when Saul would be quite angry, he would ask for David, and David would play
Hmm.
music, and that would soothe him. So music, as you said, was an outlet for you. Do you sing?
I don't. I sing. I I can sing in the choir,
Right.
but not a solo or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right then. So I think it's important in light of, Black men and their fathers, because
Hmm.
that's another podcast series that I want to probably look at maybe next year during Father's Day,
Okay.
because it's I'm not sure how it is over there in the US, and I guess because there's a lot of Black men incarcerated,
Hmm.
and so I really want to look at that because it's so significant,
Right.
the impact of the absent father in the household, especially
Hmm.
with our Black men, and all, well, also for Black women not having
Right.
a father around, and the impact it has on themselves being a father, And I know for me, at times as a psychotherapist, when I have male clients come to the process, to come to therapy, and I ask, what brings you to therapy now? I will find some men will say it's because they're going to be a father,
Mm,
and they don't want to be the father that they didn't have.
right.
And so I want us to, if I can, just let's go back a bit and talk about when you said you want to be the father that you didn't have.
Hmm.
So I'm taking it for that. Was your father present in the home, or was he absent from the home? Can you say something about that?
Yeah. So he was there, but
Hmm.
he wasn't there, if that
Okay.
makes
Yeah.
And so with him being there, I knew I had a father,
Right.
uh, but with him not being there, kind of made him absent at the same time.
Right. Okay.
And so that affected me for a while.
Okay. Can you say how that affected you?
Yeah. So dealing with the abandonment issues, um,
Mm.
you know, my father not showing up to specific things, being let down several times, kind of created this person where I continue to ask questions, say, hey, are you okay? Where are you? Just dealing with those abandonment issues
Mm.
of having a father, but not having a father.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so just trying to be there for my own children. And I know I won't be there all the time. And
Mhm.
I know that I'm going to have to miss certain things,
Yes.
but I can let them know, hey, I'm not going to be here this time because of X, Y, and Z. But I want to let you know that I will try to make it to another function, or if I don't make it here, let's celebrate afterwards. Like, so that way I'm still a part of the process. So I'm still a part of you, you know, winning your game or losing your game, so that way I'm still there physically, and that I can be there as well.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is that whilst your father may have been there physically, emotionally, there was an absent. There was the connection that you would normally have wasn't there for you. You were able to connect with him.
Correct. You said, yeah, like the emotions, they they weren't there. Um, I love my father, but
Mhm.
at the same time, it was like, do you love me?
Mhm.
Do you are you proud of what I have become?
Yeah.
Even to this day, um, the relationship is still not um where I want it to be, even though I keep trying, I keep opening that door. You have two beautiful grandkids. I want you to be a part of their life, but I'm not going to force you to be a part of their lives.
Right.
You have every opportunity to call or FaceTime them. Like, you have my number,
Mhm.
use it. And again, I know that the phone does work both ways,
Mhm.
but I always leave that door open for you to try to contact me.
Right. I see. And so so your parents, did they separate or divorce or at any time, or did they continue to live in the same home?
So they divorced my freshman year in college. Um, and I knew that um, it was time for them to go their separate ways,
Okay.
because I saw how unhappy my mom was,
Mhm.
because my dad kept doing things that um, no man should do.
Okay. I
And
see.
um, like, there was no like domestic violence or anything.
Mhm.
It's more like substance abuse.
Yes.
And
Okay.
so I don't think that that would have worked out long term for them. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that that control factor over her life is now gone. And now that my mom can now do things that she wanted to do, even though she's having a hard time coming out of that element of doing things on her own, because she's always depended on him and or other people to do things for her.
Yes, I see. And I
Mhm.
know that research indicates the father's role is quite significant. The influence in a child's life is so important for
Mhm.
their emotional support. Can you share then how your father's absence affected your relationship with others and your ability to probably form connections and throughout your life, especially in terms of yourself wanting to be a father? And I know that
Right,
was a desire of yours to be a father.
right. So um, it was a challenge to, process him being there and not being there, but also me wanting to be a father. I knew that I had to change myself, and I knew that I didn't want to make those same mistakes that he made with my own family.
Mhm.
And so I try really hard not to let those feelings and emotions come up when I do have those trying times. I kind of like push those aside and say, hey, this is not you. This is not who you want to be. This is not the man God has called you to be.
Mhm.
And, you know, I don't want to come off controlling. I don't want to come off um, as someone who needs to be in charge
Mhm.
of the entire situation. I'm here to help my spouse. I'm here to love my spouse. I'm here to be with my children. I'm here to love my children. I'm here to be the man that I want them to end up marrying or being one day. Like I want my daughter to be like, hey, my dad did this, my dad did that. I need a man who can do X, Y, and Z like my dad. Or my son, like my dad did this, my dad did that. I want to be just like my dad. And so by having those feelings and emotions and trying to make them my own has definitely helped me be a better man today. Now that I do have now that I do have kids.
Yeah, and so I think about what you said earlier on about the loss of your brother. And here you're bringing up now the loss of, the father, although he's
Mhm.
still alive, but there's still a loss. And we think
Right.
about broken attachment. There is that loss. And and when we think about within our community, the Black community, of the intergenerational trauma, the intergenerational
Right.
pain that gets transferred, keep going on and on. And here you are, what I'm hearing from the get-go is breaking that intergenerational
Yes.
cycle, making
Right.
sure that you're not passing on the same thing to your children. And I commend you for
Thank you.
that. And so thinking also about your work with the fathers,
Mhm.
um, do you touch on that aspect of what they also may be going through as they start to become fathers themselves? Does that come up in the work of their own fears of being a father because their father was either absent or not there for them?
Yeah, it does. And so I always tell them, you don't have to parent how you were parented.
Mhm.
And so I say, you have the ability to be the man, to be the dad that you aspire to be. You can be the dad that's always there. You can be the dad that's always doing stuff. You can be the dad that's, making things from scratch,
Yes.
so that way you can be that powerful leader that can uphold your household.
Mm.
And I say, like, and I always tell them, like, it's not easy for me to say this, because one, men are supposed to be strong. Men are supposed to be, you know, eat bark and break rocks and stuff like that.
Yes.
But that's not always true.
Mm.
Us as men, we have to lower our guards. We have to be in touch with our emotions. So that way, when we do have a daughter, when we do have a son, we can say, like, I understand what you're feeling. And I'm going to hold you close and say, I love you.
Yeah.
You know, when your son or daughter hears those words, I love you, and genuinely falls into your arms, that should make you feel some kind of way.
Yes.
That should touch you in some kind of way.
Yes. I like what you said about when you're talking to the men, that the fathers, about they can be the father that they wanted. Like you said, you didn't want to be the father that you didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be the father that you wanted, you know.
Right.
And so there's a term, and I can't remember the name of the individuals who termed it, but as a psychotherapist, is a term that I'm familiar with, and that is the hungry father.
Mm.
And the hungry father describes a father who's hungry because of the absence of his father, and is always has been hungry to have that connection
Mm-hmm.
with this father. And if they're not conscious of it, it can create this intergenerational cycle of pain. But if
Right.
they can be aware that inside them, the hungry father, there's a void, you know, a longing for that
Mm-hmm.
connection and the father that they never had. And so, you know, just want to thank you for sharing that part
Thank
of
you.
the work, and being so open, so candid, so, you know, making yourself vulnerable, as you
Yes.
said, share this. And I hope, you know, as the especially the fathers, the Black men that are listening, will take on board this of what, you know, what you've shared with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you again. So thank you, Juan.
You're welcome.
I think we've got that. And
Awesome.
can I ask you how you feel talking about your father?
Yeah. You know, I have my days when I come and go. I'm happy and sad. You know, I have those mixed emotions. Like today, I'm fine talking about it
Mhm.
because, you know, it is something that needs to happen. It is something that I need to talk about. I went to a a session where it was my wife and I, and she acted as my father,
Oh,
and I spoke to him what
yeah,
I want to say,
yes,
and you know, and vice versa.
yeah.
And so, just being able to verbalize what I wanted to say to him, even though that wasn't him. I don't know if I could have done that actually in person to him,
Mm, yeah.
but being able to verbalize how I felt and what emotions were in me, what was missing, um, definitely helped me to navigate these emotions and feelings.
Wow, that's powerful. I've seen some things like this. I think they call it the constellation, where
Mm-hmm.
it's done different, where one person stand up, and in your case, it would be the male, and you would speak, and there's a circle of probably men, others around you, and you
Mm-hmm.
would then speak out and say, what is it that your needs are, or your needs were, and what you are longing for. And then in the those who's also there in the group may resonate, and somebody will come and then put their hand on your shoulder and speak to that need. But having your wife do that with your wife, how powerful, and what a connection there
Yeah.
that comes between you and what you and your wife. What an understanding,
Yes.
a shared feeling at
It
that
was.
point. Let's talk about being a doula.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk to me about how, you know, you hear the news, you and your wife are expecting,
Mm-hmm.
and the joy of what that brings to you as a couple. So talk to me from there of what happened, because you mentioned about your depression, postpartum depression. So talk to me leading up to that, from the moment you heard that you and your wife were expecting.
Yeah. So when we found out that we were pregnant, I was over the top happy, so excited. Excuse me. And I wanted to be a better father than I had. And I wanted to make sure that I was there. I wanted to make sure that I was well equipped. I wanted to make sure that everything was safe and sound for my brand new baby. And so the day comes, we go to the hospital, we get up there, we get positioned, we bought my wife this hospital gown, her own socks, like basically just trying to make it feel at home for her. And so we get there, I'm excited, I'm helping out, I'm doing this. As you know, here he comes. And I'm like, wow, like he's here. And I shed a tear, and like being in that moment of, now I'm responsible for these two people in my life. And so as we could get home and get settled, COVID starts to come around. And the job I had at the time was, I didn't have enough time saved up. So I maybe had a week off of work. And so by having that week off, I really didn't have that much time to spend at home with my baby. And so when I went back to work, I was like, okay, I want to be at home with my family, because I feel like I'm going to start missing first this and first that. And so as months went on, I started feeling funny. I started not being myself, or not feeling like myself. And so I was like, postpartum depression. Like, I heard about women getting it after they give birth, but I didn't like, men can get it too. I'm like, yeah, right. They can. But as I was feeling these feelings and feeling this kind of way, I did some research online, and I said, like, can men get postpartum depression? And I was like, whoa, here's an article that said men can get postpartum depression. So approximately 10% of new fathers can experience postpartum depression, and I think that these numbers are higher in some studies, but I don't think it's notated. And I don't think a lot of us men are actually saying, yeah, I went through this right here. I went through postpartum depression. And so the time, like, I wasn't feeling like myself. And so I was, I didn't have any, I was lacking the motivation, feeling hopeless, changing my appetite. Like, I gained tons of weight, and also like the lack of sleep, because it's a brand new baby.
Yes.
And so, like, just feeling all of those symptoms was postpartum depression. And so it can occur like anytime, like within the first year after the baby's birth, like similar to mothers. And it's often in like peaks of like 3 to 6 months. And I think that's where it was for me, like that 3 to 6 month time frame. And so just being in those feelings and allowing myself to be in that, I was like, I don't want to feel this way. I need to get help. Yes. And at the time, there was no support. And so in the area that we were living in. And so I sought out a counselor and got some help that way. And then I was like,
there. Was that the first time for you seeking therapy?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you say that you weren't feeling yourself, you mentioned about gaining weight, loss of, not taking care of yourself. Can you say more about when you say you're not feeling yourself, can you tell me more about what you were going through,
Yeah.
what you were
Yeah.
feeling?
So like, I didn't want to hang out with my friends. I didn't want to do the activities that I would do. I didn't want to go to the gym.
Okay.
Like just not doing those things that I would normally do on an everyday basis.
Right.
I didn't feel like I was like, yeah, I'll do it another day. Like I just kept pushing it off and pushing it off, and allowed me to, like, I gained tons of weight. But now I'm at my smallest that I've been. And so just by acknowledging that I have those feelings and wanting to get help made me think about, okay, I can't believe that men can actually get this, or men can go through postpartum depression. And so by um, by us leaving Alabama and transitioning to North Carolina, we found out that we were pregnant again with our daughter. And I was like, you know what? I have to be prepared this time.
Yes.
And so we had a little small kid together at our house, and my wife was pregnant, and one of our friends was pregnant at the same time as well. And so she's a postpartum doula, and she was like, I think you'd be a good postpartum doula too. And so I looked it up, signed up for the classes, and boom, I was there. So I was my wife's postpartum doula for our baby, our baby girl.
Yes.
And then I was like, you know what? I have to learn more. So I became a birth doula. And then I'm like, you know what? I have to learn more. And then I became a new parent educator. And so by going through these classes and trainings allowed me to shift my focus and say, hey, I want to do this from a dad's perspective. And thus Dad the Doula was born. And so I don't want other men to go through this alone. I want their voices to be heard. I want them to be seen throughout the birthing process. And, I don't want to be labeled as the angry Black man who's in the hospital. No,
Yes.
I'm not angry. I'm scared.
Yes.
I'm worried because I don't want my wife to be another stat.
Yes.
And so, and thus that doula was born.
So you wanted other Black men to not go through what you went through, but to really get on board with the pregnancy. They're not carrying the baby, but you wanted them to be right there, supporting and understanding, and also checking in with their own emotions of what's going on for them. Because men are scared too at times.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So you mentioned, just to go back a bit, you mentioned that you went to therapy. How did therapy help you through your postpartum depression?
It was amazing. During COVID, you really couldn't visit people because of the social distancing. But, I was a extrovert. So not being able to talk to people was kind of like really hard for me. And so the job I had was you come to the office, close the door, and do your work, and then you go home. And that was causing some of that depression as well, because my wife and baby, they were at home enjoying themselves, having a good time. But I was at work, working and things like that. And so the therapist said, hey, I think if you have your wife FaceTime you during lunch, you guys can have lunch together that way. Or you can have your wife bring you lunch up there and you walk directly to the car and y'all have lunch in the car. And so just by us doing those things and me being involved in that way, definitely helped out. But I was looking for another job at the time so I can um, be be at home. And so I applied for another job. I ended up getting that job and working remotely indefinitely.
Right.
And
Right.
so now I'm able to spend time at home with my family during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, have worship, and do things like that with my family at home. So I love it. I am still working remotely
Mhm.
and doing that to Doula on the side.
Right. So tell me about Dad Doodler.
Hmm.
Talk to me about the name.
Yeah. So I was in training on my postpartum training, and I was like, what would be a good name for a male doula? Um, I say dad, like dad doula. I'm like, it's not as catchy, but dad to doodler. So I am a dad, but now I am a doodler, or I am a doula. But I said, but I want to make it cool, so I put dude, and then love.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
So Doodler, Dad
yep,
to Doodler. I
doodler. Hmm.
see. Yes. Okay. Great. So let me ask you this.
Hmm.
As a doula, how does your wife feel? Because if I'm understanding correctly, you're not just helping men, but you're
Hmm.
there with with other women or other men's partners. How
Right.
how does your wife feel about that?
She is okay with it. She is my number one supporter.
Mhm.
She helps me out with so much.
Mhm.
And she told me, and she said, and I quote, if he gets turned on by bloody vaginas, then we have a bigger issue. But she is my number one supporter. She's my number one fan.
Mhm.
She loves that I do this kind of work to make sure that men's voices are heard and that they are seen throughout the birthing and postpartum process, because a lot of times we as men just get pushed to the side, and the doctors normally focus on, hey, how's mom and baby doing?
Yes.
And so I'm like, no, let's change that narrative of how's mom, baby, and dad doing.
Right.
Because just like, the Trinity, you have the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Now you have the father, the mom, and the baby.
Yes.
And so um, just to put it in that same context, like, hey, we're now a family of three.
Yes.
So please address us as a family. And I'm
Beautiful.
not just a partner. I'm this person's dad.
Yes.
I am her husband. I am her partner. I'm her spouse.
Yes.
So I'm here to support her and also support my baby during this time.
Right. I like that. You're now a family of three, and you want to be treated as that. You're all
Yes.
you're all in it together. So I asked you about how does your wife feel about it. So let
Mm.
me ask you, how does the men feel about it? Because you're laughing as I say that. So how does the men feel about it when you're there with them and
Mm.
their partners when during the birth?
Yeah. So during the birth, I'm actually there for the men to help their partners.
Mhm.
But I'm also there for their partners as well, just in case if he gets tired.
Yes. Okay.
And so just by saying, hey, I'm not here to take away your masculinity,
Mhm.
I'm here to help you. I
Mhm.
say, think of me as your fitness coach. I'm here to help you build up these muscles. I'm here to help you, to give you the tools that you need to have a successful birth, to make sure that you can do the hip squeezes, rock back and forth, do
Yeah.
the squats, you know, so that way you can lift up your partner during this process. And just by changing the terminology in that, allows them to think about it differently. Say, okay, yes, he is a doula, but he's also my coach in this thing called birth. And so, and then when I explain it to the moms as well, they're like, okay, I get it. So you're helping him help me. I said, exactly. Exactly. And if he gets tired, I'm here to help you as well. Like to give him some time to rest and recharge. So that way, when he's done, he can come back into the game and say, okay, tag me in, coach, I'm ready. Like put me back in the game. All right, let's go. Third down, Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Let's go. So yes.
That sounds wonderful, beautiful to hear that. And so, as a Black man doing this, how receptive have you found, our Black brothers in doing this, in educating them and letting them know that the work starts as soon as there is the conception? How has that been for you, educating Black brothers?
It's been met with a lot of open arms, because to see another Black man say that I went through X, Y, and Z, and I don't want you to go through this alone. They're like, yo, that hit me differently, because I want to make sure that as another Black man to another Black man, that you are okay. And I don't want you to be labeled, like I said, as the angry Black man. You're worried, you're scared out of your mind, and you don't know what to do. And as men, we are providers, we are fixers, and we want to fix problems. And sometimes there are, things that we can't fix. If your wife is on the table, or in the bed and she's bleeding, like, the only thing we can do is call the doctor and say, hey, she's bleeding, someone come in and help her. And now we are worrying about what's going on. We're scared out of our mind. And we're like, hey, like, fix it. But we have to sometimes take a step back and say, hey, I'm going to let you do your job, but just know that I'm not angry. I'm just worried. I'm scared. I don't know what to do in this moment. And I need for you to fix this problem or fix this issue that we are having. And so by being an advocate, or having men be an advocate for their spouse, can definitely lower these health disparities. Black women are likely to experience health disparities such as, high rates of hypertension, diabetes, obesity, and those are some of the things that can complicate pregnancy and birth. And by also having these racial biases in healthcare, a Black woman not being listened to, can definitely kill her.
Yes.
But if your husband or partner is in that room saying, like, hey, my wife is not feeling well, I need someone to come in here and help her or check on her to see what's wrong, and just don't push her to the side. We don't need that. We don't need a hemorrhaging. We don't need the infection. We don't need that. Come in here and check on her.
Yes. Amen. As a single mother, single parent myself, and I know that there are a lot of Black mothers who are left alone or abandoned by their baby father, by the by the baby's father, and they are alone at times in the birthing suite. If you worked with single mothers, as a doula?
I have not, but I would love to, because I feel like having another support person in there with you to say, hey, you got this. I got your back.
Yes.
I'm not going to let anything happen to you
Mm.
in this moment, because this moment is so vulnerable. Like literally, you're really open in this moment.
Mm.
And
So
I would,
stunning.
yes,
Mm.
and I would love to be a support person for, single moms or women who don't have partners or who have gotten pregnant and like, hey, I can't do this on my own, or I don't have any family here.
Mm.
I would love to be that support person.
Yes. And as I listen to you talk, I'm hearing this could be a beautiful role for, well, beautiful business for you and your wife to
Mhm.
be engaged with. What do you
Right.
think of that?
So my wife doesn't want to be a doula. I've tried, but you know, I think she does encourage me to do so many things with my business, to push me and say, hey, I think that if you do this, you can get this.
Right,
I think if you do that, you can get that.
right.
And so, last year I spent um, about 6 or 7 months traveling, speaking across the US about including men in maternal health,
Mm.
because I want to like lower these health disparities.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that, our Black women are taken care of during this birth and postpartum process. Um, because once you get home, it's brand new all over again.
Yes.
Like as a dad, you're dating this baby.
Mhm.
Now you're also dating your spouse again because she is a new person.
Right. I
And
like
so,
it.
and also your spouse is healing as well, from giving birth or having a C-section, and just being able to say, hey, take this time to get to know each other,
Yeah.
and invite people over when you're ready.
Yes.
And so whenever I'm with the client, I say, hey, what's your postpartum plan?
Mm.
And I said, your postpartum plan is something that is going to outline the afterbirth of your journey,
Right.
and who's allowed to come in your house, who's allowed to cook meals, who's allowed to do this and do that, by either hiring a postpartum doula or having friends come over and say, hey, friends can come over between this time and this time.
Mm. Yes.
And, and as time goes on, you learn to do things with a baby in your hand.
Mm.
You learn to put baby down.
Mhm.
When people say sleep when the baby sleeps,
Mhm.
I say rest when the baby sleeps.
Right. Yeah.
Like you don't have to go to sleep, but you can rest. If you doze off, that's fine.
Mhm.
But rest when the baby's rest. Like put up your feet. Those dishes will get done.
Mhm.
That laundry will get done.
Mhm.
And like I said, you can have friends or family come up and say, hey, I don't need you to hold the baby. I I'm I'm perfect at that. Like that's my job.
Yes.
But I do need you to either cook me a meal,
Yes.
or I need you to wash the dishes, do some laundry, fold these clothes.
Yes.
And so like that can definitely help out in those everyday tasks of being in this new norm.
Because it's so important, isn't it, to be able to hear what the individual's needs are, what they want, as opposed to what you want to do for them.
Mhm.
It's about listening to them and hearing what they need to be done.
Right.
Whether it's, yes, I want to be able to hold the baby and put my feet up, but can you do the ironing?
Exactly.
You put a load of washing in for me. Do you mind
Mm.
just vacuuming and
Right.
and so forth? Can you just run to the grocery store for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, how do you talk to the men? Because Restore Black is all about mental health within the Black community, and
Hmm.
how we want to encourage us within the Black community to put our mental health as a priority.
Mhm.
And I know that studies have shown that Black men in particular, they're really down on the ladder when it comes to taking care of their mental health. And so, first of all, I want to applaud you for the work you are doing, and also being able to take that step, probably when you were in your 30s, or to seek out therapy.
Mhm.
And so, how do you encourage other Black men to think about their mental health?
When the baby's here and it's all said and done, I tell them, I say, don't forget about yourself.
Mhm.
Don't forget about yourself during this process. I know you have a lot on your plate. I know you have a lot on your mind. Um, and I like to call it provider pressure. You have provider pressure, meaning you're taking care of the finances, you're taking care of the bills, you're taking care of the house, you're trying to do this and do that. And you're trying you're also worried about going back to work and trying to make up what time you've missed.
Mhm.
And so that's a lot of pressure as a provider. And men, we are providers.
Mhm.
But I also tell them, don't forget about self. You have self-care versus self-maintenance.
Mhm.
And I said, self-maintenance is I have to take a shower. I have to eat. I have to put oil in my car. I have
Yes.
to put gas in my car. You know, those are things that you have to maintain. You
Yes.
have to maintain your body.
Mhm.
But self-care is I want to go out and get a fresh haircut.
Mhm.
I want to go out and get a fresh shave. I want to go out and get my nails done,
Yes.
And vice versa for the moms as well. But I think as Black men, we have to take some time for ourselves and put ourselves in a place where we can literally let down our guard and say, I'm tired.
Mhm.
I need some help
Mhm.
or I need a break.
Mhm.
And, by asking your partner, say, hey, are you okay if I go out with the guys or go over to so and so's house from this time to this time? And saying, I'll be back say, from 5 to 7. Are you okay if I go to John's house from 5 to 7? Do you need any help with the baby in between those times while I'm
Wow.
out?
Yes.
And if you do, I can call X, Y, and Z to come over and help you during this time. Or do you think you can manage alone?
Mhm.
And if your partner says, you know what, I got it. I see that you need your guys. I see that you need some you time. Perfectly fine. And
Yeah.
also vice versa.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is about the communication between both couples, isn't it? Between the couple, is
Yes.
to be able to say, this is what I need, but I'm
Hmm.
also thinking about what your needs are before I go and self-care or self-maintenance.
Correct.
I'm hearing you say. So,
Correct.
Juan, how do people find you? Where can they find your service?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at dad to doodler,
Yes.
or my website www.dadtodoodler.com.
Yes.
Or you can just type in my name, Juan Irby, JuanIrby, on
Mm.
Google, and I'll pop up there. And reach out to me if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments. I'm an open book,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to share any and everything. Um, and I'm happy to be a resource now in the UK
Mhm.
for people who need these kind of services.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. I'll certainly put everything on my website. When I finish, I'm going to write something up about do a blog and put your details in that so people can contact you. And so, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
Yeah. I think that more men addressing and acknowledging that they may have postpartum depression
Mm.
can lead to better outcomes for fathers, their partners, and their children.
Yes.
Because it will allow more studies to be done and more research to be had. And that will better give us a better way to see what the numbers truly are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And guys, like, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of, I want to be better. It's a sign I want to be better for myself and for my family.
Yes.
Like, not a sign of negative masculinity. It's not. Getting the help that you need can definitely make you feel more of a man than you already are.
Yes.
So, and my catchphrase is, don't be a dud. Like, let this dude help you be a dad.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. So, how long have you been doing this now, this work?
I've been doing this work for about 3 years now. And it has brought me all over the US. And I know next month I'm going to Mississippi and Wisconsin to speak there. And so just to have these opportunities to speak about men being involved in maternal health.
No.
And there is a man in the word, or men in the word maternal.
Yes.
And there's also the word me.
Yes.
So I'm not going to let you forget about me in this maternal health field.
Right. Okay. I like that. And you know what? I'm not sure. And I guess when I start to write about this, I'm going to start researching to see how many, if any, male doulas we have here in the UK, and how many Black male doulas we have here in the UK. But I'd also love to be able to see you over here talking about your speaking engagements. Would love to see you over here speaking at a men's conference and so forth. I think it's what you're doing is so well needed.
Thank you.
In the US and here in the UK, because there is a lot that goes on within maternity care, as you know, where, as you said, Black men don't get considered, men don't get considered. Things are changing a lot more now. And so seeing you and hearing of your work as a Black male doing this for our Black brothers and others, I really want to applaud you for doing that. And it's amazing, isn't it? Out of your own depression, this work has come about.
Right.
So thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank you again for just coming on this platform. You've been very gracious. Soon as I sent the word out, you within minutes you said you'll do it. So I really appreciate it. And I'm hoping that you'll get some invites to come over to this side of the pond. And
I would love to. Love to.
And if that happens, we're going to keep in touch anyway.
Definitely, we will.
And if that happens, we're going to have to meet up.
Yes.
So I want to give my regards to your beautiful wife and your beautiful children, and also thank you again. And we'll be looking out for you. And may God continue to bless you this is a ministry I see that you're doing. This is indeed a ministry. So may God continue to bless you as you move forward in your ministry.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Hello. As you watch or even listen to this podcast as you go about your daily task, I want to ask you to please like and subscribe to this channel. Not only will your support help us reach more people, but it will help us to get more funding to help with our other community initiatives, which will then enable us to reach more people and encourage them to make their mental health a priority. Thank you again for listening.